So excited for you to listen in again for fast and easy tips for peak performance without burnout. We have Jen Makaleka here today. She is a functional diagnostic nutritionist and coaches people around the world, getting them excited about what their body really means for them, but then also taking a look at their digestion and looking at the science of it, which I'm so excited because this is my favorite part of this whole series is talking and nerding out with you. So Jen, welcome to our show.
Thanks for having me. It's exciting to be here.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your story and how your holistic boss got launched, kind of.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've always been kind of interested in the fitness and health industry. I went to college and studied fitness, nutrition, and health and was a personal trainer for a while, and always considered myself like a really, really healthy person. But in my mid-20s, I hit burnout, essentially, like started to experience chronic fatigue, and that was diagnosed with skin cancer at the age of 26, which was really unusual. And there wasn't any cancer related like in my family. And so it just kind of inspired me to dig a little bit deeper to understand like why that happened. And that's how I really got introduced to the world of functional diagnostic nutrition and the work that I do now. So I enrolled in a course called Functional Diagnostic Nutrition and started just to look at the body from a more functional perspective, and ended up running some lab tests and diving deeper into my own health, and resolved a lot of the health issues and the burnout that I was experiencing. And now I work with clients kind of doing the same thing, doing some of that lab testing and coaching them through a process of like changing their lifestyle or learning how to navigate life differently so that it's more in alignment with the health that they actually want to have. And life continues to happen. So like I've, been challenged with some other health issues along the way. Like I've successfully reversed Hashimoto's and recovered from mold illness that happened later on in life. And I've done all of that by applying the work that I do and the principles that I've learned through that training. And I'm excited to share some of that info with your listeners today.
Yeah, that's a great kind of personal story and making it impactful, because it comes from the heart now when you're talking about the science and you're talking about helping people and their body truly, and whether it's muscles, tissues, hormones, all of those different components. As a student of holistic nutrition, right, that's what we're talking about too, not only in the body, but then in the mind and in the spirit. And so throughout this whole series, everyone's getting pieces of that puzzle. And so today we're going to talk a lot about digestion. You do something really cool with your clients where you actually do like a food and language kind of check-in after meals. Is that right? Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, it's called the Food and Body Language Log, and it's a tool that I use with clients to really help them kind of tune into their body and figure out what foods are right for them, because there's a difference between eating healthy and eating right for your body. Eating right for your body will incorporate healthy foods, but not every healthy food is necessarily right for your body. And we could take like a banana, for example. We could all say that in general, that a banana is really healthy food, right? Like it's loaded with a ton of vitamins and minerals, but depending on who you are as a person, that healthy food, that banana may not necessarily be right for you. Like if you're somebody who doesn't tolerate, let's say, carbohydrates very well, then eating that banana that's full of sugars and carbohydrates, even though they're healthy ones, may not be the right food for you. Or if you have a food sensitivity to that per se. So this tool, it's like really simple. Anybody can do it at home. It's literally just an act of like writing down what it is that you're eating with each meal. And then about 30 minutes to 2 hours later, kind of checking in with your body to see how it's responding to that meal that you had, and looking for any signs about like your satisfaction level and your overall like feeling of well-being. Because when we look at how our body is reacting to foods, we tend to think like, oh, digestive upset would be like a sign, let's say, that like that food didn't sit with me well. Like I'm sure a lot of our listeners here have had the experience of eating something and then, it gives them constipation or diarrhea, or like, some like their stomach is like physically upset. But your body reacts to foods in a lot of different ways. Like anxiety, for example, could be a symptom or a signal that your body is not enjoying a food that you just ate. And so oftentimes we're like eating on autopilot, like not really thinking about the foods that are going into our body, or maybe we are, but we're not paying attention to how the body is reacting to them. And so utilizing this tool, it starts to help create that or cultivate that connection with the body to see, like, is my body responding well to the foods that I'm putting in? And if it's not, then you can start to take a deeper look at how you're eating and what you're eating and start to make some modifications so that, you know, your food then becomes more in alignment with how it is that you would like to be feeling and kind of experiencing life.
Yeah. And that's so important in the sense that when you're checking in with how nourished you feel after a meal, or if the hunger actually did go away, or am I just eating it because it's what I know how to do and I'm kind of on autopilot, like you said, those really start to feel better. Like, I know I have 2 healthy meals that I love, and one fits really well on days that I know I'm not going to be doing a big workout, or I'm not going to have to write a whole paper, or all those different things. And it feels good and it nourishes my soul, and the what's in it is still giving me vitamins and minerals. But if I know that in a mental space, I need to be at a different level of peak performance, I'm going to eat something differently. And that took me years. Like, that took me years to figure out and kind of find. And it's not something you do right away. Like, you're like, oh my gosh, like, how did that taco feel? You know, like, you know, like, but you can have fun with it and be curious. And I think that curiosity is huge. And it does diminish this whole bigger concept that society is really going through, is this whole diet realm, right? It's like, oh, well, I know this, and this about my body, and I'm not really curious about any other options. I just want a solution. And
Right.
that's great, but you're not going to have that lasting relationship with your own habits around food if you just say, I'm going to go apply this cookie cutter thing and not do the internal work around it too. And it's not shameful. It's not something
Right.
you do, but it's that curiosity and like, oh, wow, like, that did stress me out. Or, oh, wow, like, I'm going to go, you know I'm going out with my friends this weekend. What's something I know that's going to put me on my best mood so that I can enjoy my friends, even though I have this stressor and this stressor and this stressor, and kind of seeing that ebb and flow with it. I want to talk a little bit about leaky gut. And kind of just share with people that it's not just a disease that people, get diagnosed with and then are kind of curing throughout their lifespan, but that people actually flow in and out of it. And that the actual tissues that are in our digestive system, from our mouth to our throats, to our esophagus, down into our stomach, and then throughout all of our intestines, and how it even pulls into all of our different organ systems, have a response to that. And that the leaky gut and things are something just to be conscientious of, and it can actually affect, like what you were saying, anxiety, emotions, and this component of it. So tell me a little bit about what you do with clients, or how do you talk about that with them?
Yeah. So when I run lab testing with my clients, so we can see actually on paper that there is a degree of leaky gut. And I can, just based on what I've seen coming through my health coaching practice and the information that we know and have available to us, it's pretty safe to assume that most people, the majority of people out there, are walking around with a degree of leaky gut. Now that's a sliding scale. So it could be really leaky or just a little bit leaky, right? And there's a lot of things in our environment that contribute to leaky gut that can cause that. And like you said, I love how you said you can kind of ebb and flow through different phases of it, depending on what's going on in your life. So like some really big things that contribute to leaky gut are like emotional stress. So if you're like really stressed out because you're cramming for finals or because of work or whatever's going on in your family, that is a contributing factor to leaky gut. So are toxins in our environment, and there's so many of those. Prescription medications, even things like birth control or like, Xanax or anti-anxiety medications, those contribute to leaky gut. And then so do foods. Like if you're eating inflammatory foods, and some of those top inflammatory foods are going to be things like gluten, dairy, sugar, soy, and alcohol. And then things that you might be sensitive to, those all contribute to leaky gut. Getting poor sleep, like not getting adequate sleep at night, can contribute to leaky gut. So at any point in time, you can kind of look at, if we just take like those, 4 or 5 areas, and you can look at those and be like, wow, like I have all of those things going on, then you can kind of see that maybe your instance of leaky gut is greater right now than it had been in the past because you're more stressed and whatever's going on with you. And then you can also assess those areas and see where there's opportunity to eliminate some of those factors to reduce the stress that's on the intestinal tract and to start to kind of heal or reverse leaky gut as well, right? Like minimizing your exposures to toxins, like by, what are the things like the personal care products that you're using, or your household like cleaning items, or like, implementing like some type of daily meditation or stress reducing techniques, cleaning up your diet a little bit. So there's at different points in your life, like it's going to be easier or harder to do some of those things. And that's just like a constant awareness to have when it comes to like leaky gut and what's contributing to that overall.
Definitely. And then for our listeners, what is like the very like baseline science of leaky gut on the
So leaky gut is basically about like intestinal permeability. So I love that we're actually on video for this, because this is how I describe it to my clients. I'm like, if you hold your hand up and you squeeze your four fingers together, right? This is actually what the inside of the intestinal tract looks like. So most people would think of the intestines like it's like a pipe, like a smooth surface, right? But inside we actually have like these structures that look like fingers. And then there's like, think of like shag carpet that would be like covering your fingers. And this increases surface area in the gut. So when you hold your four fingers together and they're tightly connected, this is what a healthy gut looks like. We call these tight junctions, basically. And then if you spread your four fingers apart, this is what leaky gut looks like. We have loose junctions. So now we have kind of these crevices that are going on within the intestinal tract that are allowing large particles of food or toxins to cross the gut barrier and get directly into the bloodstream. So we call this increased intestinal permeability, versus when the four fingers are squeezed together, that's a healthy gut. So it's only allowing small particles like vitamins and nutrients to get through into the bloodstream. It's keeping the big stuff out. And then we have that increased intestinal permeability. So there's certain things that also trigger like increased intestinal permeability. Like if you're eating gluten, for example, every instance that you ingest gluten, it increases intestinal permeability for up to around 5 hours. So after you have that piece of toast, let's say for breakfast, for the next 5 hours, you have increased intestinal permeability, which now is allowing more toxins and things that you might come across in that next 5 hours into your bloodstream. So that's where, by making some changes or being aware of what you're eating or what's going on in your life, like we can reduce the amount of time that intestinal permeability is increased, and you can protect your body a little bit better from that too.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that. And it's valuable to think about it consistently throughout the days, because when you think, oh wow, and you don't have to be really like sick, with something going on, but you're like, oh wow, like I feel like more puffy, or maybe I'm more achy, or maybe, there's just certain things that are going on that where you just know that you're not at a peak performance day, right? And that's happens. Like that was me 3 days ago. Like it's life. We all ebb and flow with that. But now you can see it. And when you visualize it, like when I visualize like, oh wow, I think my like permeability is kind of off. I need to like chill, like whether it's just like water for a little bit and just kind of heal. I literally think about like those bigger particles coming in as like you opened the floodgates for like the I-5 freeway, so like now you have like all the cars, like, and it's okay that you have all the cars, but like sometimes cars need like a car wash before they get in, and they have to make sure their smog's getting checked and like all those things. And that's what that intestinal wall does, is it says, okay, like, is the car, right, is the molecule ready to go into the blood? And when they're going in haphazardly, you don't really know. And then there's a cascade effect, and you have all these different metabolic pathways. Your body's so smart, like what it's doing in your blood, what it's doing and changing things, and getting rid of like, there's a whole line of cells that go in and just eat the bad stuff, but you don't want to overwork them either, so it's how do you find that rhythm, and how do you ultimately it shifts it into, love. Like, how do you love your body on that level so that you're not working so freaking hard? And it becomes easier. And the more consistent you get with it, you can hit that peak performance better, because you're not having those, like, where you even get to the point that you feel like you're going to burn out, right? Or that like, oh wow, I do need to like hit the reset button, and I need to spend 2 weeks healing certain components of my life. And so I think that that's just really something to think about. And then, your tips for the journaling after, and it doesn't have to be a big journal, right?
No, it's literally like just writing down like you know, what you ate from a visual perspective. You don't really have to weigh your food or anything. Like, I do encourage people to look at like their portions of fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. So like, but you can visually see like a pie chart on your plate, like, oh, the majority of my plate is like made up of proteins and fats, and I have a little small portion of vegetables, or maybe it's really heavy in carbohydrates because it's like a rice bowl or something like that. So you could see that visually, and then, you know, write that down and then see how your body responds afterwards, essentially. And, you know, one of the things, like, just to go off of what you were just saying, that I share with my clients too, is like, I ask them to redefine what the word stress means to them. Because when we think of stress, we think like mental, emotional stress, right? But your new definition of stress is anything that places a burden on your body that results then in inflammation and dysfunction. So stress could be like the foods that you're eating that don't agree with you. It could be that poor night of sleep that you got. It could be over exercising, or exercising too intensely when your body's already tired. It is actual physical or emotional stress that you're going through. It's toxins in your environment. So any point in time, you should be able to kind of like stop and evaluate your stress scale, and then look at like how your body's responding and how you're feeling, and then look at where you can make some adjustments to alleviate stress. And like the perfect example of this is, let's say, like, what does everybody want to do on like a Friday at 5 o'clock? They want to go and have a drink, right? So you've worked like a really long week or had like a really long school week, and you're like, I just want to go get a drink with my friends, with my girlfriends. You end up going, you end up eating all the cheese, like all the appetizer things, like that couple of drinks turns into like a couple bottles of wine, and then you're going to bed late. And like, what's the first thing that people typically want to do when they get up in the morning?
Work it off.
Right. They're like, crap, I just made all these crappy decisions yesterday or last night. I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to burn off all these calories. But if you think about it, like, that alcohol super depleted your body, robbed it all of all these nutrients. You went to bed late. You probably got a shitty night of sleep as well, right? From all the sugar and things that you ate, plus you went to bed late. Your body is then in that morning, like, super depleted. The last thing that it needs is exercise, where like, especially intense exercise, where you're just going to deplete it even more. Like maybe going for like a walk, like getting some kind of movement in, or like something more restorative like yoga, would be okay for you. But like, our body will do anything that we ask it to, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we should. And I was that way. That's how I hit burnout. Like, I was working 12-hour days, and then I was like racing home on a Friday, going out with friends, like then hitting the gym super hard on Saturdays, hit repeat Saturday night to Sunday. And like, I was never giving my body a break, because I was just like trucking through it and not stopping to pause. And now I pause more frequently and just say, like, what does my body need in this moment based on what I've been dealing with throughout the day or throughout the week, essentially.
Yeah, I appreciate you telling our audience it's okay to give them a little bit of grace, right? Like, you know, because those fostering good relationships with your friends, all of that is so important, you know, and you can't live in a silo. And so that's where, you know, these tips throughout our series they're super general. They're very applicable. It's a take it or leave it. And you're going to find that balance, you know, and you're able to even work. Like, let's say you do sleep in on Saturday and give yourself that rest and do all of that. Like, you're able to have a higher level of performance once you've had let your body kind of catch up to you and your mind and how awesome you are.
Yes.
So thank you so much for sharing with us. Where can we find you on the web, in the world? What's up with your business, and where can we shout you out?
Yeah, so you guys can follow me on Facebook or Instagram. Handle is at Holistic Health Boss, and holistic is with a W, just like the whole body or whole foods. So Holistic Health Boss. Also, you can find me on my website at holistichealthboss.com. All
righty, Jen. Well, it was so great connecting with you. And that is the wrap for our intestinal permeability talk. So everybody go out there and eat mindfully. We appreciate you, and thanks, Jen. We'll be connecting soon. Yeah, sounds great.